It is 1:47 in the morning. Somewhere aboard a factory fishing vessel, a crew member is trying to sleep. His cabin is small. There is a bunk against the bulkhead, a locker for clothes, perhaps a phone charging beside the mattress. The lights are off. But the ship is not quiet. 1 or 2 decks below, fish are moving through an industrial processing line. Conveyors are running. Pumps are working. Refrigeration machinery is keeping frozen product cold. Boxes are being moved toward storage, and the entire factory is moving with the sea. This is the part that makes factory ships so strange. A normal fishing boat catches fish and eventually brings them ashore. A factory vessel can do something very different. It can catch or receive the fish, process them, freeze them, package them, and store the finished product without needing a factory on land. In some vessel designs, the accommodation is literally placed on decks above the processing space. Naval architects have even designed circulation routes so crew finishing one watch can reach their cabins without unnecessarily disturbing people sleeping for the next one. So inside one steel hull, 2 completely different worlds exist vertically. Below, an industrial food processing plant. Above, bedrooms, a galley, a mess room, showers, people drinking coffee, people scrolling through messages from home, people trying to sleep before the next shift. And that creates the question at the center of this ship. How do you live normally when the building you live in is also a factory that never really leaves the ocean? This is beyond the waterline. And on a factory ship, the trick is not shutting the industrial world down. It is creating just enough separation for a human being to recover while that world continues around him. First, the term itself needs clearing up. Factory ship can describe several kinds of fishing vessel. Some are catcher processors. They catch their own fish and process them aboard. Others are factory motherships. They can receive fish from smaller fishing vessels and perform the processing themselves. Factory trawlers combine the 2 most obvious pieces of the system, a trawler at the stern and a processing plant inside the hull. The size range is enormous. At the extreme end, vessels classified as fish factory motherships have exceeded 200 meters. The vessel now listed as Devo, previously known as Vladivostok 2000, and Damanzai measures about 228.6 meters. A historical regional vessel record listed a crew count of 330. But even much smaller modern catcher processors can house dozens of people. The factory freezer trawler North Star, for example, was designed with accommodation for 60 people plus a hospital, while its processing systems could produce fillets, headed and gutted fish, canned products, fish meal and fish oil. This is closer to a moving industrial complex than the fishing boat most people picture. And the reason for putting the factory at sea is simple. Fish begin changing after they are caught. Instead of spending days transporting an entire catch back toward a processing plant, the processing plant comes with the vessel. The supply chain collapses inward. Catch, processing, freezing, packaging, storage, all inside the ship. But that creates another problem. The workers now have to live inside the supply chain too. To understand what that means, follow the catch. On a factory trawler, the net is hauled back toward the stern. The catch enters the ship. From there, depending on the vessel, species, and product being produced, the fish can move into receiving bins and onto processing lines. Sorting, heading, gutting, filleting, trimming, grading, freezing, packing. Finished frozen product eventually moves toward refrigerated storage. Some vessels also process material that would otherwise be discarded into products such as fish meal or fish oil. So almost immediately after leaving the ocean, The fish has entered something recognizable as a food factory: conveyor belts, cutting machinery, stainless steel work surfaces, freezer pans, packaging stations, cold rooms, workers standing at fixed positions while the deck beneath all of it rolls. In Alaska's offshore processing industry, the production line even has an informal name: the slime line. That name matters because this is not clean, quiet work hidden behind an automated wall. It is repetitive physical labor. Wet surfaces, cold product, machinery, boxes, knives and cutting equipment, standing for long periods, and movement that a factory on land never has to deal with. A building does not roll 5 degrees while somebody is carrying frozen product. A factory floor does not rise beneath your feet with a swell. Here it can. And once the processing starts, another clock begins. The crew cannot simply treat the catch like a pile of steel components waiting until tomorrow. The whole reason the factory exists is to move product through quickly and preserve it. So while someone upstairs is getting ready for bed, the industrial logic below may be saying, "Keep moving." The obvious solution would be to switch everything off at night, but there may be no meaningful night for the entire vessel. Fishing operations, navigation, engineering, and processing can run on different schedules. People work in watches or shifts. One group rests because another group is awake. That makes the physical layout unusually important. A modern factory trawler concept from naval architects Knud E. Hansen places the factory on one deck, while crew accommodation sits higher in the vessel. Another concept puts all accommodation forward across several decks, with cabins separated from the working areas. And this is not just about convenience. Sleeping above an industrial processing plant means fighting noise, vibration, traffic, and smell. Good design tries to create a boundary: bulkheads, insulation, doors, ventilation, passage arrangements, distance from machinery. The International Labor Organization's Work in Fishing Convention, C188, establishes accommodation standards for states where the convention applies. Its accommodation provisions address excessive noise and vibration, ventilation, heating, cooling, lighting, and the location and construction of sleeping rooms. For fishing vessels 24 meters and longer, it also states that there should be no direct opening from fish rooms or machinery spaces into sleeping rooms, apart from emergency escape arrangements. That single rule tells you something important about factory ship life. The bedroom and the factory may be close, but they are not supposed to become the same environment. The ship has to manufacture a psychological border inside a hull where real physical distance is limited. Downstairs, rubber boots and waterproof work clothing. Upstairs, socks. Downstairs, conveyors. Upstairs, a bunk. Downstairs, product moving toward a freezer. Upstairs, somebody trying not to wake his cabin mate. The same injury study found that processing catch on the production line accounted for the largest single group of reported work process injuries. Other recurring activities included stacking frozen product and repairing, maintaining, or cleaning processing equipment. That last category is important. A machine can look harmless when the product stops moving. Cleaning begins. Something jams. Someone reaches toward equipment. The industrial hazard has not necessarily disappeared simply because the normal process has paused. A documented 2018 accident aboard the factory vessel Annalise Elena involved a crew member whose hand became trapped in the gear wheel of a conveyor during cleaning work, causing serious injury. It is a small incident compared with the scale of the ship. And that is precisely why it matters. Most factory ship danger does not require the vessel to sink. It can begin with one ordinary machine, one cleaning task, one moving component, one exhausted person near the end of a shift, The systems protecting the crew, therefore, include more than lifeboats and survival suits. Machine guarding matters. Isolation procedures matter. Training matters. Non-slip surfaces matter. Safe movement through the factory matters. Rest matters. Especially rest. This is the darker part of the contradiction. A naval architect can move cabins farther from machinery. Insulation can reduce noise. Ventilation can keep the accommodation habitable. A watch system can put another person on duty. But eventually the person climbing into the bunk has to recover. ILO Convention 188 requires, for fishing vessels covered by its provisions and remaining at sea for more than 3 days, minimum rest of at least 10 hours in any 24-hour period and 77 hours in 7 days, while allowing defined exceptions and alternative equivalent arrangements under its rules. That is the regulatory number. The human reality is simpler. A person can technically be off duty without instantly being asleep. He has to eat, shower, wash clothing, maybe call home. Maybe the person sharing the cabin is moving around. Maybe the vessel is rolling. Maybe an alarm sounds. Maybe the next fishing operation changes the rhythm of the ship. The factory can be separated from the bedroom by steel. Fatigue crosses steel very easily, and the longer the voyage, the more life becomes repetitive. The same corridor, the same stairway, the same table, the same bunk, the same workstation. The horizon may change every day. Inside, very little does. That is one reason the apparently trivial comforts aboard modern vessels matter. A quiet cabin, a television, exercise equipment, a cup of coffee outside the workspace, a seat where nobody is processing fish. They do not make the job easy. They give the mind somewhere else to go without leaving the vessel. And that may be the strangest engineering requirement of all. A factory ashore does not need bedrooms for the production workers upstairs. When the shift ends, people leave. A fishing vessel cannot offer that boundary. So the ship has to manufacture it artificially. Factory here. Accommodation there. Dirty work clothing here. Clean living space there. Work shift. Meal. Shower. Cabin. Sleep. Then back down. The separation is never complete. You may still hear vibration. You still feel the hull move. You still know that only a few decks away, the catch is being turned from something pulled out of the ocean into a frozen commercial product. But complete separation is not the goal. Enough separation is. Enough for the cook to prepare the next meal. Enough for the next watch to sleep. Enough for a processor's hands to recover. Enough for somebody who has spent hours standing beside machinery to close a cabin door and temporarily stop being part of the factory. Go back to the cabin where we started. The crew member is still asleep. Below him, part of the vessel remains industrial. Conveyors, refrigeration, machinery, frozen product, crew members still on shift. Elsewhere, somebody is navigating. Somebody is monitoring machinery. Somebody may be preparing the next meal, and eventually, the person in that bunk will wake up. He will put his work clothes back on, walk through the accommodation, descend the stairs, and re-enter the factory. That is what makes these ships different from almost any workplace ashore. You never really travel to work. You move vertically into it, and you never truly leave it. You close a door above it and try to recover before going back down. A factory ship works because it creates just enough distance between the human being and the machine for the human being to keep returning to it. The factory may run at sea, but the most important system aboard is the one that allows the people inside it to stop being factory workers for a few hours at a time. If you have worked on a factory trawler, catcher processor, or fish processing mothership, Tell us what happens after a processing shift that people ashore never see, how you eat, how you sleep, and which part of living beside the factory is hardest to get used to. And for more documentaries about the hidden human life inside extreme maritime environments, subscribe to Beyond the Waterline.